Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and I'm back here at BMW Seattle, but I saw a car that immediately I'm like, what's that? I want to give you a walk around and a drive of an M8 Grand Coupe individual. So if you had a chance to watch my M8 convertible review when the weather was a little bit better, when I saw this Grand Coupe, I knew I wanted to look at it. An M8 Competition Grand Coupe or Grand Coupe, adding 2 more doors and a little bit more length, I really wanted to see the difference. Now for me, I will freely admit I struggled when BMW had 4-door coupes, because for the longest time, coupe means 2-door to me, but it actually doesn't. The sedan style has a little bit more dramatic cut between the windshield and the back glass down to the trunk and hood, where a coupe is going to be more sloped and sloping throughout. So it's not actually about doors, it's actually about exterior style. So I really wanted to take a look at this M8 Competition and see what the differences were, get a chance to drive it, and especially this individual car. When I say individual, I'm not kidding. This is Mexico Blue, which is an individual custom color. So not only do you have this great car, but you have all of the options, all of the technology, and a standout individual color. So let's do a walk around. Let's take a look at the amazing S63 motor that puts out 500 horsepower. Let's look at the style and everything that comes with it, and then we'll take you out for a drive. So let's start by taking a look at this amazing S63 motor. This is 600 horsepower and 553 foot-pounds of torque, which is enough that you're probably going to be buying rear tires more often than you go to the grocery store. But what an amazing piece of equipment all jammed in here. And there's so much of this, the technology that is so cool that I'm not able to show because it's underneath the car or buried in deep. Larger sway bars, amazing adaptive suspension, all of the different components that do go together. But here's the one thing I did want to show. Since the cover doesn't have a strut bar over the top, you can actually pull the engine cover. And also different than, say, for example, the S55 motor where the turbos are tucked down low and you can't see them. With this, they're stacked right here on top, which is actually really cool. And you can see both of the twin turbos that sit right here. So what an amazing piece of technology throughout. And you can see the charge coolers where you're coming down, you're getting cold air that comes up and gets pumped into your turbos, gets pushed through, that puts out the amazing amount of power and torque that this motor can provide. And if you're especially crazy, and if you ever did want to go down the road of replacing your turbos, they're a heck of a lot easier to get to. So let's do the rest of the walk around and look at the car, and then I'll show you the interior as well. Okay, so let's look at all of the exterior styling and technology you get on this amazing M8 Coupe, Grand Coupe. One thing I think is absolutely fascinating is this actually has the BMW laser headlights, which is one step beyond in technology what the LED headlights are doing these days. You also see all the aggressive venting because you have larger oil and engine cooling solutions to keep this amazing S63 cool. You also have large ducting to get back to your brakes as well, to keep them cool as you get this car up and moving. This color is really growing on me. So as you look at the wheels, you can see these 2-tone wheels with 6-piston front calipers and floating rear calipers with a lot of carbon fiber accents. You can see on the side, the mirrors, even including a carbon fiber roof. What you can also see is in this Grand Coupe style, this long, low, sloping roof style, which is different from the sedan, of course. So if you more like that coupe style, you're going to get it. Now, the other thing you're going to notice is that with the competition style, you usually get this carbon fiber notched rear spoiler, which is a little bit different. Coming around the back, you have that signature BMW M quad exhaust with a carbon fiber diffuser. Looks really good. And more around this side, as you can see, very large tires and wheels. Great look, great styling. There really is no bad angle on this car whatsoever. So what a gorgeous car. Let's look inside, see what the interior looks like. Let's take a look at the interior on this gorgeous car. So the black extended leather. You can see plenty of room here in the back, even for grown adults, including all the controls that you would want, power, heated seats, and individually controlled air conditioning, which is really nice. As we come around and look at the front seats, you know, I will freely admit it's a simple thing, but one of the things I really love is the light-up badging on the seats. I like that a lot. Now, of course, this being a brand new car, it still has all the protective plastic, so you'll have to forgive me for that. But all in all, you can see really well laid out, Really well thought out, and I love that the cockpit is slightly turned towards the driver. So let's climb in and show you what the iDrive and center console looks like. Okay, so let's take a look at the center console. So you can see a lot of a really familiar setup. You've got all of your button controls here through the middle, your M mode and your startup and the rest, all including a manual valve control for your exhaust if you want to maybe sneak out in the morning and be a little bit quieter for your neighbors. Up through all of your parking controls and your traction control here, and the familiar iDrive controls, so with home, media, and map and so on, that you can use also to go through all of your setup. Now, one of the things, I know it's not new technology, but I really do love that there's a wireless charging pad here. You can just throw your phone on there, and you don't have to worry about your phone going dead because it's sitting there and it's being charged, which is really nice. All the familiar radio and AC controls that you're used to, and including looking at our center iDrive display, which I'll come back to in just a moment for a little bit of a more detailed walkthrough. So as we take a look at it, we've got our familiar controls here. We also have our M1 and M2, which is really nice, so you can have multiple modes at a push button. So if the weather's a little bit bad like it is today, you can actually tame back some of your power and some of the suspension, or if you're on rough roads. And for example, M2 can be set to your a little bit more aggressive driving, which it really makes it a lot of fun. You also have your center display with all of the information that you have on there that you can also customize and will change depending on how you go through your M modes as well. So lots of really cool different options. Let's actually take a look and look back at the iDrive, and I'll show you what that looks like. Let's take a brief look at the iDrive 7 system. This has all of the options that you can imagine, including gesture control, which is really, really nice. Now, I'm not going to turn up the radio right now because I usually end up having a problem with YouTube where I have a song on here or something that they don't like. But you have all of the options that you can go through, including this being a touch screen. So you have your shortcuts on your steering wheel, you have the iDrive control, you have touch screen, you have really every combination that you would want to be able to go through and customize not only the display and the interface, but how you want to use it, which is really nice. So one of the things I like that I just mentioned a few minutes ago, if you go into the M menu and your M1 and M2 buttons, you have all of your configuration here: engine, transmission, your suspension, your steering, even your brakes, that you can go through and customize. And so you can have if you want, two very distinct setups. You can have one to be very tame and easy for perhaps commuting or in-town driving, and then you can have another for that opportunity where maybe you get a little bit of open road and you can drive a little bit more aggressively. But I love that ability to be able to customize all of your different options. And as you look at this, there are so many possible configurations that you can go through to really make this car your own. But more importantly, let's actually get out and drive it and see what that feels like. So let's take this out for a loop. What a cool car. And it's really not great weather today, so of course I'm going to be really respectful in driving and being able to take this for a test drive. But then also it's cold and rainy today, so the last thing I want to do is have any issues. But what a cool car. I love the way this sounds. Yep. Sounds really good. I like it. I like it a lot. What a fun car. I always love this on-ramp. It's always an opportunity to open it up a little bit. But today is really not the day for it, I'm afraid. Sorry. It's about 50 degrees and been raining all day. And even coming out of the dealership, I got a little bit of tire slip. So the last thing I'm going to do is want to have any issues or bring the back end around on bad conditions like this. These are on Cup 4 tires, so all the more reason to be a little bit more careful. But even in easier driving modes, the car really picks up and goes. I like it a lot. Power is very, very responsive. So even when the weather and the conditions aren't supportive of it. out just because I have an opportunity to do it. So you have active side collision protection in this car. So if you see that gray Honda, as I'm out here driving on a test drive, they actually came over the paint stripe when they were right next to me, just a little bit. And I got a notification on my dash, active side collision protection, and a little bit of a left shift out of the car. And that isn't something I would normally call out on a test drive. But what cool technology. Now, thankfully, they didn't come over the line too far, but they actually did come over the line and the car adjusted just a little bit. So in all of the technology you find in a car like this M8, there is all of the performance, all of the handling, exhaust and sound, and all the things you would like to hear. But there also are really cool safety functions that hopefully you'll never have to know anything about. But if they get, because you'll never run into a situation where they kick in. But in this case, that was actually really cool to have the car adjust a little bit. And for all of the cars I've driven and test driven, I've never actually had that function fire off yet. So I just wanted to make sure to share it. All in all, super comfortable, nice and quiet, good engine note. We're very responsive power, and this might be it. So if the M5 feels like too much of a boxy sedan for you, the M8 Grand Coupe might be your solution. I've got my favorite on-ramp coming up here, heading back towards the dealership. We're gonna linger back just a little bit, let some of the cars in front of us get out there. Gonna put it into M2 mode, see if we can get a little bit more engine note. Yeah, and that was about as much as the conditions would allow, and that was not wide open throttle by any stretch of the imagination. That was not traction control off either. Plus, this is a car still well within its weekend period, so I'm going to be really respectful of the car, and also respectful of BMW Seattle for letting me take this for a test drive. But that was impressive, and the one thing the video is not going to give you is the press back into the seat feeling. So I would imagine in good conditions on dry pavement that this is going to be an amazing experience to be able to really drive this car with a little more enthusiasm than the weather and traffic right now will allow, let alone if you actually took this out to the track, which this car could support. So what a fun car. Let's share the rest of the drive back, show you a little bit of Seattle while we go along. Kind of an ironic Seattle day here today. You can see lots of rain as we come back across the lake. We actually have a little bit of blue sky and sun off in one direction. But you know, that's what kind of makes Seattle so special. You have all the water in the ocean around here. And the one thing I wanted to note is this color is really growing on me. And again, this is Mexico Blue Individual. This specific car here at BMW Seattle is, it's a one-off. There aren't any others like it. And as we drive through traffic today, where every car, gray, silver, gray, dark gray, silver, gray, this Mexico blue stands out. It really does. And this wouldn't have been a color that I would choose just off a piece of paper. This probably wouldn't have been my first choice. But seeing it on this car and actually driving it, I really like it. The color is really growing on me. And man, does it stand out here in traffic where everything else is a shade of white or silver or gray. All right, so back at the dealership, and this is one of those cars where I'm just intrigued by it. I wish I had more time in the seat. I would love to borrow this for days and weeks to really get a sense of what it's like to drive this car, especially in mixed conditions, where today in traffic wasn't all that great, so it's not the best test drive I could have given you. But I hope it gave you a little bit of a sense of what it's like to be in an M8 competition. The other thing is this specific car really is a one-off. Now, sure, you could order one in Mexico Blue, but the chances of finding one in Mexico Blue is slim to none. So if this is the kind of car you're looking for, make sure to come down and check it out at BMW Seattle where you get an opportunity and really get a sense yourself of what it's like to drive this. So thank you to BMW Seattle for giving me this opportunity and giving me some time in the seat here. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I have a ton of new content coming, and I'll see you on my next project.